Make it clear right now that the Mexican cartels are the biggest threats, or one of the biggest threats to the national security and the public health of America, not just Ohio.
In Nogales, they had a record seizure of fentanyl, and 1 kilogram of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people.
What nobody's talking about today is the fentanyl that the Sinaloa cartel is pumping into America, killing our kids at unprecedented levels. We haven't seen anything like this in the history of our countries. It was all about the money. That's what drug cartels are involved in. But these cartels are actually operating like terrorists. And I hope the president and the State Department consider designating them as terrorists, because that's what they are. Look what happened on the New York City subway. Shot in the head on video. And look at the guy's background. He had 12 prior arrests. He was out on $2,500 bail. Not a Ohio problem. It's an American problem. But we need to look at designating these Mexican cartels as terrorists. I mean, they are so ruthless and their violence is so bad. It's worse than Afghanistan. It's worse than Iraq. I mean, just look what they're doing. They're chopping off heads. They're throwing people in acid. They're bombing government buildings. They're killing judges. They're killing newspaper reporters, media. They're trying to intimidate everybody. They're chopping heads off, putting them on fence posts with signs on them. They are every single day causing death and destruction. And by the way, Chris, the murder rates in Mexico are escalating through the roof. And you know what nobody talks about is all the disappearances.
Correct.
They have the Sinaloa cartel has, like, for example, the stew maker. He dumps like hundreds of bodies into acid, and then they find bones. I mean, this is stuff that we haven't seen anywhere in the world. This is not a border issue.
Correct.
This is all over America. And go talk to the families that are losing their loved ones every day at unprecedented levels. Just look at Bambi Lawson out there in California. I mean, this monster that killed her, he was, arrested, like 6 times? He had ICE detainers, and they didn't even do anything about it. They just let him go. And then he butchers the lady. I always bring up the Atlanta DEA case. We had a big takedown, 15 out of 24 of the subjects arrested on a major Jalisco cartel case. They were illegally here. The lab that they hit, 400 pounds of methamphetamine, 6 out of 7 arrested were all illegal. They're causing chaos in our country, and kids are dying everywhere. So thank God President Trump is standing up for our national security. Well, first of all, it was a big deal because that could have killed 57 million people. That's
that
like
much drugs.
17% of the U.S. population, right? But the thing is, they got to realize that the port of entries need the resources, right? So if you have a wall, then the cars, the tractor trailers are going to go through into the port of entry, and you're going to have the Border Patrol agents, the CBP officers, you'll have the screening technology, the drug detection, so you'll be able to do a much better job at focusing on the threats and knowing who's coming into the country, as opposed to riding around the open land all night long on ATVs. We will never make the progress that you're looking for if we don't get the expertise together. You know, like I said, 2008, Michael Chertoff made it clear. Hezbollah makes Al-Qaeda look like the minor leagues. Right? General Kelly has testified so many times about this emergence down in South America, Central America, the tri-border region, cocaine flowing into the Middle East, money's being made all over. So until we get our teams together and hold people accountable, we're going to be talking about this forever. 4 grains of salt is equivalent to like 2 milligrams of fentanyl. That's all you need to kill an adult. So when these guys are buying this stuff from China, and it's coming into Mexico, and they're putting it into the powder to make more money. What's happening is it's not like they have quality control chemists in these houses. They're just mixing it up, trying to make money, so you could be the kid that buys 1 bag of heroin, and there's 5 grains of this stuff, that you snort, and you're dead. Despite the catastrophic toll of death in Mexico, it's now at record levels, over 33,000. Very sophisticated with narco subs, with shipping vessels, with 747s, with private vessels, with tractor trailers, rail cars. The drug cartel was run like a Fortune 500 company.
Chapo devised ingenious smuggling methods. He packed drugs into fake cucumbers and bananas and mixed them with shipments of real produce. But the thing he worked hardest on was making sure he could always get away. Chapo was the first Mexican drug trafficker to hire architects and engineers to build elaborate tunnels, complete with railways to ferry drugs under the U.S.-Mexico border. And he spent millions adapting them to use as escape routes from his many hideouts.
Top drug lord is in custody after decades on the run. The news of El Chapo's capture reverberated around the world.
to grab Chapo Guzman after years of a manhunt. So basically, it was an amazing success for everyone.
If you add up 9/11, if you add up the Iraq War, the Afghani War, that's only 14% of how many people died in 2017 from drugs in America.
Another thing, this is not a national health issue we're talking about. It's a national security issue. If you look at just Hezbollah alone and their emergence into cocaine trafficking in the ton quantities, one individual was indicted in Virginia for moving $200 million a month through this trade-based money laundering ring to support Hezbollah. There's a tremendous crisis, and it's not just, ask the family, 72,000 people have died. So we have China, too, working with the Mexican cartels.
To move it into the
That's
country.
a dangerous combination for America's national security. Thank God our brave men and women in law enforcement are out there, understaffed, underpaid, getting all kinds of pressure, getting shot at by these people in America.
I know that you said that two Republican congressmen, Chip Roy and Mark Green, circulated a letter last week to call on the Secretary of State to start saying that Mexican cartels are terrorists.
Terrorists are here now in the Western Hemisphere. So wake up. Congress, wake up. Law enforcement leadership, wake up. The Obama administration talked about that Hezbollah was one of the most technically capable terrorists in the world. Where the hell was the sense of urgency? They're here in our backyards. They're crossing over the border every day. We just don't know where they are. And then when something happens, people are going to say, how did that happen? Because you've been sleeping all these years and no one's holding anyone accountable. Human smuggling, cigarette trafficking, counterfeit products, drugs, weapons, it's massive. It's so complex. If everyone is saying how terrorists are tapping into the criminal networks for their funding, why is our system in the U.S. still broken? We have our JTTFs, which do tremendous work. So if you're a criminal investigator, everybody's trained that the criminal investigator must coordinate with the JTTFs when you have any information on terrorism. So if I'm working a drug case and the guy says, hey, I want to blow up the Sears Tower tomorrow, immediately you're going to notify the JTTF, and the FBI and the intel community are going to do a good job and investigate that. That's not a problem. But in reverse, it's a disaster. So you're working a terror inquiry. You check the box of this guy's not a terrorist, and you don't tap into the resources of the law enforcement, criminal investigators, and the intelligence, so the person is left out there to do the bombing and do the killings instead of trying to take them down on the criminal side. How can a country be like the U.S. be so smart and so advanced, but that basic principle we can't fix? Why? If you study all of these cases, it's too secret, we can't pass it to the state and locals, it's too secret, this guy's not cleared. That's a bunch of BS, because we're in this together, and our country's going to get destroyed if we don't start sharing the information, and people have to be held accountable.
So thank God President Trump is standing up for our national security.